need to change that. Let me say Dylan as well. Dylan, Happy New Year, my guy. We're back. Season 2, we can call it. The Hustle
Happy New Year.
Brothers.
I love it.
eVTOL.
I love it.
Yeah, do you know what?
2026, huh?
I'm actually buzzing for this year. I started the new project, 365 days. Every single day, an eVTOL video. I reckon I can do it. Guys, do jump in. Smash the like button. If you think I can do it, do jump in. If you're new here, bang that subscribe button. We've got the subscriber counter up on the screen now. Yeah, look, going into a new year, we had a nice little push up. We had the likes of Archer, Joby, even Horizon Aircraft started pushing up there. Guys, I want you to jump straight into the chat there. I had a comment recently saying that Horizon Aircraft raised $23 million. I can't find it anywhere, so if anyone can get me that, please help me. But Dylan, how are you feeling coming into the new year? New goals. How are we feeling about the market?
I think that's a great word to actually say, Liam, new goals. It's kind of interesting coming off of 2025 and kind of seeing maybe what structuring the portfolio had started to be made. It's like different stages, like whether it's been a long-term investor, shorter term, and kind of building out certain positions and seeing kind of what maybe can springboard and also diversify out the portfolio and seeing what had already been captured within 2025. So I think it's really nice to kind of open 2025, and it was a nice little boost on Friday to kind of see everything get a little green. I know it was a little bit of swap from of the higher names. I think it was only 2 of the 7 of the Mag 7s might have been green on Friday. And you did have quite a bit of the beta runs. So it's kind of interesting to see if, even when I was thinking about that, I don't want to misquote, but it might have been Sam Lee, want to say like 6 to 9 months ago, was saying maybe even towards the summer that there was going to be a higher run towards the beta names. And I mean, still Quantum ran, definitely some of the eVTOLs were running as well. So not to say that didn't happen, but I think there were maybe some different predictions out there he had as well. So it'll be interesting to see if some of that high beta keeps going through maybe January, and kind of also see, different tax slots and, people that are ready to buy now that it's January, or are they ready to sell now that it's January, kind of going back and forth. But, personally, for me, I think maybe a goal that you just kind of brought to my mind, which is always good, is maybe to be a better nester in the brokerage account. It's like it's always, for me, I'll say it's always fun to go shopping in the market, and kind of pick up here and there. And I guess it's even Reese is in my head right now as I say it, kind of with the whole time in the market better than time in the market. I believe that's a Reese quote.
Yeah.
I believe it goes no further. He made that up, trademark. And it's like, so even with Archer, I think my buys last year, I would say price-wise probably capped out. I could obviously go check it, but I would say around the 1150 range. I would still probably even just like nibble in a little bit here and there. So obviously year over year on those particular shares would have been in the red. But also, depending how kind of everybody's portfolios have laid out during kind of the last 2 years of this kind of like super bull run, and kind of depending whichever really solid names, could have been Tesla, Google. I don't keep up with Microsoft as much, but I feel like that, would have been a decent name to be in as well. And then also, if you're in the Rocket Labs, the ONDSs, the AMPXs, the eVTOLs, Joby's, having those kind of runs that you already had in 25, and kind of again banking those as, again, it's maybe in higher beta to beat the S&P, but hopefully in this all to be the high interest savings account, and then to beat the S&P, and then as we get into the riskier plays, trying to beat it even more than that. So yeah, kind of entering the year on a fresh slate, and looking to diversify a little bit more. What you been thinking?
Yeah, I had a nice day there. Friday? I unlocked look, I'm going to say 2,500. I unlocked about 2,400 worth of capital. I actually got out of Redwire a little bit. Redwire done an insane run up, and I thought, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
I'm expecting Redwire to run a little bit, but I just thought I'm expecting Archer and Joby to have such a big year this year. I thought I can't let it go. So what I done, I put 1,162 into Joby. So I got that at 1404. That was about 82 shares, and then Archer I put 119998, and that left me with 156 extra shares. What I want to do more, I think I want to buy a little more and often, rather than over the past while I've been waiting for big macro drops,
We swapping
trending a
styles.
lot
Yeah, go
of
for it.
capital in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go
we
for
are
it.
swapping styles massively because I feel like, I don't know, I miss an awful lot. But then on the other hand, it's great sometimes to get in on them big drops. But look, anyone that knows me on this channel, I am the worst man at time in the market. So I end up deploying the caps, and next thing we end up dropping another like 10-15%. So do you know what? I'm switching my strategy up this year. I'm gonna buy little and often. I'm gonna start putting it more on X, letting people know, look, I've been open with people. I don't share my whole position on X just because we heard what happened to Map Money, where people vandalized all this thing when they knew how much he had. So I want to keep that away, but I will start anytime I buy or sell. I will start putting it on X. Guys, do let me know. Have you bought anything recently? Have you sold anything recently? What are you expecting the eVTOLs to do this year? Dylan, are you expecting a big year, or do you think more consolidation and then a big pump into 2027 going into 2028?
You know, I love the question, and I swear sometimes we're in sync. It's like as you were saying, what you were doing, I was writing down. It was like I was writing down your numbers, and what I actually wrote down was I was like Joby price, as you were saying, the buys on Joby. I was like, kind of in my head, I was like, you know, what are the Joby price catalysts for 2026? You know, kind of, and again, what is baked into the price? What, you know, what are we establishing market caps on the companies, revenue that they're going to be able to see? Now the thing too is, and I'm not saying it's a negative thing, we definitely want these companies to have revenue and to show revenue and such, but, or should I say yet, now we're kind of comparing metrics again on revenue brought in versus a market cap that a company is being sold per share at that present time. So it was actually, and you know, it was interesting. It seemed like Archer wanted to hold off until Q4, coming up on Q4 2026, and you know, Joby did release revenue on Q3 26 on that one. So it's, you know, it's going to be interesting kind of again on the catalyst. I feel like for Archer, I can pinpoint what hadn't happened in 25, which brought it down into, I would say, your accumulation range. And it was, you know, really interesting to see through the year, still with it being able to hold over the 7, despite really having no VTOL presentation being done to the public.
I genuinely think it's the VTOL that's holding it down.
Got it.
I think once that VTOL gets unleashed, and I think the lawsuit is hanging over the head. Once them two are over the line, once Joby gets certified, we know once Joby gets certified, everyone's going to be turned their heads and why isn't Archer certified? I'm not expecting Archer to certify anywhere close to the time Joby do. But I genuinely think the VTOL's holding them down at the moment because too many people are jumping in and just saying they can't do what they say they're going to do. Once they prove that, lawsuit I actually don't think is hanging over as much as I actually anticipated it to hang over. We have seen that they've moved it to federal court now, so they reckon it's more in favor of Archer and it's looking more likely for a dismissal. But yet, look, if what Joby is alleging is true, it could give even severer penalties. So what are even your thoughts on that?
You know, I think with Archer, what has been really, and maybe it's the same with Joby, and again, I think this year, just because of the research I've done on Archer in the past, you know, it's really kind of the more current news that comes out for me to keep up with, as opposed to kind of going back through the story. So I think I'd like to continue to go backwards through Joby's story, kind of fill in the middle gap of it as I kind of have the beginning, definitely towards the end in the current, but maybe filling in the 22 through mid 23 gap in Joby, learning a little bit more about kind of what they did to get to cert progress and such like that. Um, on the Archer side, and I kind of mean that just for if, and it's harder to find some interviews and stuff on the Joby side, kind of more out in the public. But when I've gone back and I've listened to some of the interviews that Archer and some of their C-suite have done, it's been interesting again to hear what was put into place a year ago and is coming to fruition in the nowadays, minus the veto. So what is kind of hitting me is when Archer was getting sued by Boeing. You know, I know that kind of gets thrown around a lot, but we don't always kind of think and talk about how did they kind of beat and settle with Boeing. Like that was, you know, a pretty major competitor to go up against, and against, you know, the money that Boeing would have, and you could really just squash out this new company coming in. So Boeing tried to even, there's a legal term for it, but that's not expedite, but I'm just going to use the word expedite, basically expedite it. And it was basically going to be in a sense where Archer would be putting Boeing out of business if this technology went through and all this kind of stuff. So what Adam learned from that was what it's like to go through the words on the tip of my tongue. It's with it. It starts with the D. Deposition. When you go
Yeah.
through a deposition. So I mean, this man's been through a deposition with Boeing and like the top Boeing litigators and stuff. So I don't know. I think, and also through going through that stuff, you meet people, you meet lawyers, you meet, you know, other connections, and I think that's something that Adam's been great at. And if if you're in between on Adam, also go back and, you know, listen a little bit on kind of his journey and how he pushed through and different rebuilds and redesigns he had to do with his past company, kind of like building it up prior to the sale, and what companies were out there which actually like he M&A'd and kind of took down. It's kind of interesting to hear that story for what it was, and really what he had to do to raise the capital to get Archer going. So there was just some stuff that lit some fire. But again, through the legal thing, I think he's going to have top-notch lawyers with him, and I, you know, to be settled in court. I guess is a weak way for me to end it, but to be settled in court. But I think he'll be heavily loaded with the best lawyers to represent him in the most honest of ways, to keep his company pushing and moving forward. But yeah, not sure on the Corvette thing. Yeah.
And then, on a positive note, we did get
Yeah.
a bit of a press release from Archer come on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. I can't remember when it was. I'll actually bring it up on screen here. Some people are going to say it's hype. Some people are going to say it's not needed. But yeah, they do have an airplane in the background there. I am pretty sure Archer can use AI and edit out the plane if they really want to. Guys, if we're wondering what this plane is, we've had a look into it, and it is Swiss International Air. Swiss International Air. Okay, there's two parts to this. In Switzerland, there's a conference happening next week in Davos. Lufthansa, who owns Swiss International Air, will be there. Archer Aviation spoke at this conference last year, but they are not in attendance as we speak. There's nothing stopping Adam from actually arriving over and announcing a partnership. This plane is definitely this plane up here. Swiss International Air in the picture, Archer Aviation ready for takeoff 2026. Some people are saying it's an announcement that we're ready for VTOL. I don't even think it is. I just think, look, it's an aerospace company. Of course, it's ready for takeoff. But what was your thoughts behind this press release?
You know, I think, you know, I think at the end, you know, it was. I think I even commented. I was like, "What's that fuzzy thing in the background there?" You know, and it's like, but even as you talk, I don't want to be the Archer dot connector. I want to see the dots and draw the lines in between them when I know they're there. I was gonna Google it really quick, but I think Davos might be an invitation event. So I'm
Okay.
curious if, and I'll double check, or anybody in the chat, please let me know if I'm wrong. So you know, I definitely know they were there last year, which I was glad, and it to my knowledge, more of a technology event. So I'd like them being there. And actually, after Davos, you did have that roll into the actual signing of Palantir. I would not be surprised if Palantir was at Davos.
Yeah.
Haven't heard it, but that's just because I don't know that at the moment. But highly suspect they would be there if they want to be there. But yeah, I mean, I kind of felt the same way where it's like, man, you do have airbrush, so like I think I could even Photoshop it out. So
Yeah.
why I got a plane? Well,
They
you
could
know,
even cut the midnight from there if they wanted to.
exactly. We just moved the Archer logo, you know. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna take notice. I'm not gonna start a rumor or try to be, you know, too tinfoil to the point of something that couldn't be true. But you know, I could it be labeling another partnership? Sure. There's always the chance that the launch edition expands, maybe gets a Swiss partnership as well. Now as I say that, just tell me if I'm wrong. But I feel like the Swiss is pretty cold. I don't know if there's like, it's going to sound very dumb, but I'll just be honest. I don't think that there's beaches in the Swiss, but I could be
No,
wrong,
there's
or
not.
at least in the Swiss Alps. I don't think I don't think that you're going there for you know, 85-degree suntan. But outside of that, so bringing into a great video you put up on Fiki. So if they were going in the Swiss, so yeah, you know, I think, and then just to finish the thought, you know, I think you might be on it where it's easy to want to read into more, but it is an aerospace company, and what are they looking to do in 2026? And I personally think you nailed it. And sometimes maybe when we look too far in, we find what's not really there. But yeah, but yeah, you did make that really cool video on the Fiki. So yeah, moving into Swiss, I guess we just now twist my brain in a whole nother like, we're going
Yeah.
cold weather launch edition too.
So, yeah, Fiki certification. Look, we
Yeah.
know Archer and Joby are not planning on Fiki certifying. They can't, like, I want to make this clear, guys. They can add it on if they want to, if they see fit. After all, I actually got a really nice comment earlier. But the problem is with adding it on after, you're changing the hardware. So you have to do an amendment to your type certification, which therefore, if you're planning on doing it anyway, why don't you just do it? And apparently it's quite hard because you're changing the actual hardware.
Mm.
You'd actually have to change the infrastructure within the wing, or you have to change the actual airframe. So you'll have to have like a hydrophobic coating on the airframe. If not, you need your wings to vibrate, or you need a heating element through your wings. Therefore, you're adding weight. You're just messing around
Mhm.
an awful lot. I got a nice comment earlier that if they do expand, at the moment, we're seeing that Archer and Joby are both trying to just mass manufacture. So once they infiltrate these spaces and once they saturate them, potentially then they could either produce a new aircraft or then go back to Fiki certification. At the moment, I just do think the population is around that warm area of the world. Look, when we talk about Horizon aircraft done really well to
Mhm.
go in for Fiki certification. However, they wouldn't be able to fly 6 months of the year if they
Mhm.
weren't going for Fiki certification because they're
Nailed
being
it.
produced in Canada. So, what are
Yeah.
your thoughts on that, my guy?
Yeah, you know, and I and again, I'm not trying to come into the ears the Archer Bull. Definitely want to come in as the well-rounded bull, well-rounded eVTOL bull. But I do have to go back to something that Adam said again about a year ago, and sometimes you just don't catch it at the time, or it just catches a little bit more now. And this is to paraphrase, but he basically said entrance into the service of New York, not my main goal, not what I'm after. So with taking that into consideration, oh, and actually, this was kind of like a just a random shower thought. It's like, so as we also look at these aircraft not being FICI certified, okay, and we look at the different defense applications that these aircraft could have in the use cases. So it just made me think, okay, so we're testing UAE, so you're thinking hot weather, dust, those missions can be feasible and possible. But what if, and again, sorry for geography and weather, I don't mean to mix it up, but
Yeah, no.
whatever a situation like Russia or something like that, is that more cold weather and barren where you're not going to be able to fly or have these vehicles. But my only counter to that, which I countered in my head, but I don't think is true, so I have to kind of bounce it back and forth, was if these were military, not commercial,
I don't think they'll need certification
we
then. I think
won't
they can
need.
just modify.
Oh, that's a great point about just modify, because see, I was thinking almost like as they're looking to reduce costs, almost in like per thing, where it would almost be like, this is a bad word, but like a write-off. Like I'm talking like
Yeah.
an unmanned system. Like if these were like an unmanned, like
Yeah.
thing going.
I would expect when Anduril produced the hybrid and when L3 Harris are going through with Joby, I'd hope that
Mhm.
they would implement some type of system if they were going
Yeah.
into battle in them sort of areas. But I could be completely wrong there. I think that would be an element of it. I'd hope anyway. Guys,
But
jump
yeah,
in the comments. Let us know.
yeah, no, I think that's a great question, because yeah, I'd love to hear what people think about, because as we do kind of think, and I think that's a great thing as we've kind of like grown and kept talking about the eVTOL. It's like, again, if this was commercial only, again, who knows what even these stock prices would be at today. Just I'll say in half for
Yeah.
both, or four down 40% for both. It's just saying that there's some military use case application built into what could be the market cap of these companies, of the TAM, of these of the full industry of what an eVTOL is. So again, depending on when you first start investing in it, or the why, it really seems to be labeled as the eVTOL is this commercial air taxi network. And I think the more and more we study it, we see that that's not quite unfolding as quickly as maybe we presumed. I presumed. I'll stick with the eyes
Yeah.
on it, that I presumed. And it did have to really again take a shift in my investment, not so much the thesis, but just what sort of investor am I, and do I want to invest in something that is a defense company? Is that what I personally want to invest my hard-earned dollars into, or do I, am I more into the Ubers and the what I'm using in life, or the cool tech like Tesla, blah blah blah. But it was something where I was like, well, even though I didn't plan on investing in the eVTOLs as a defense quote unquote play, we'll see how it plays out, but a quote unquote play, I'm liking that there's a shift in the business model, because I'm not seeing the path to revenue. And every one of these companies has their cash burn and run rate, cash burn and run rate. And these things to go and solve, man. I mean, we saw Lillian. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, just because you've been around or had the most money or this and that, like, or meaning you could say that either ways, either because you've been around the most or you have the most money. That does not mean that you're going to succeed in this. There's it's almost like I say, to make a successful rock band, it's like you got to have it's like making gumbo. I don't know if you guys got like gumbo over there and stuff, or like a version of it, but it's like it's going like all the extras, it's like you get all the extra sausage, all the shrimp, and all the veggies, carrots, celery, all the onions, everything you got left over, put in the pot, the extra rice at the bottom, and the special spices, and that's how you make the the gumbo, the jambalaya, and that's kind of what I feel is going.
I love this comment. Defense seems
Mm,
more of a money opportunity than commercial. Like, think about
mhm,
it. At the moment,
mhm.
even once we start commercial operations, like the path to profitability is quite a long road. And I'm not saying defense is the way out, but if we look at even L3 Harris with Joby Aviation, L3 Harris were recently awarded a contract with Rocket Lab for 18 satellites under the SDA. and that contract alone was 843 million. We know the defense budget is absolutely insane. So you only need 3 or 4 of these contracts, and next thing you're a really healthy company while you're starting to generate the numbers required for commercial service. I said this about a year ago. I think for the next while, it'll be who can get the bigger defensive contracts, therefore inject the money back into commercial services, making manufacturing facilities bigger, and therefore it's going to be a race to manufacturing. At the moment, once we flick that switch and we go from this race to type certification to a race on who can actually get the numbers out, that's where it gets exciting, because then it could actually be who has the bigger wallet and who has the bigger facilities and are more efficient in pumping them out. And look, I don't want to fire anything at anyone. Look, Ohio facility for Joby is going to be amazing. They're going to be pumping out 500 plus S4 at full ramp up. But it keeps coming back to that Covington, Georgia facility at full capacity 950 with the opportunity to expand. And even when we done that video at the Covington, Georgia facility, the amount of space at that ARC facility is immense. So you could triple the size of that and there's still enough space there. So I think the key to all this is achieving one of these big contracts with the defense to therefore unlock the potential for commercial. What do you think?
No, I think you're absolutely correct. And you know what? Again, just going back a little bit, what was two things that I think were very important to both of these companies as they were coming into the SPAC market was they needed these order books. So we talk about commercial, they needed these order books to basically show out to the SPAC market that they were going to be able to basically, in so many words, raise the money, get the money, be good for the money, all that kind of stuff. So it made me almost think about, again, these United, Delta, and I'll get this back to defense really quick. And United, Delta, all those MOUs, we'll see what comes of those. I think we really look at those as MOUs that both got these companies the I don't know if it's institutional, but the basically the venture capitalists support and confidence to back these companies. And I actually learned again about like Mark Lowry, it's like that dude backstopped Archer Aviation, and that's how basically Adam approached Tom and was like, look, like I don't have $1 billion. I have this, and Tom's like, well, if you ain't got $1 billion, like I'm not leaving Sierra. Like you're not gonna have a company, basically. You need $1 billion to start it. And Adam was like, I call in every favor, and Mark Lowry backstopped it. So because that kind of goes into when we first started this about a year and a half ago, seeing Mark Lowry sell out. So it's just, again, more to that like full picture of like how these eVTOL companies got going and, first got their commercial and turning to the defense revenue. I mean, and again, I would say Adam was the first to pivot towards defense, and he showed also with his company, Battery. If you go and look, there was pivots in those companies, and he figured out how to make his company and basically also like figure out where to not cut his losses, but like anyway, I believe that it was not aerospace, but I believe he learned a lot about how to run a company through his experience in running Battery. So
I need to jump across and watch that interview you sent me earlier, my guy. I literally jumped into it and I was like, my God, I don't know if I have the time to watch that now.
And again, it just kind of lights on fire, because what it is to me, it's not so much what I'm hearing today. It was said in the past, and I'm seeing these things to be true today. And there's interesting points both about Archer's business model, about Joby's business model in there, and how they both have their paths towards success. And I think you're completely right. And it's almost been stated, I feel like, for the companies for maybe 2 quarters now, where it is the manufacturing race. Like the type certification, there's not a rebuild that's going on with Archer. Like, clip that if I'm wrong, send, blast out, I'll put on Reddit. There's not a redesign. It's a race to manufacturing, and that's really what we're gonna get at. And you're not gonna have commercial operations to the scale that we think we're gonna have them, most likely till your, call it, 2030s. But
Yeah.
also, and while we're in a race for manufacturing, again, we've talked about this. Where are you gonna allot those aircraft? And again, if your total addressable market on the defense side is X, and it's Y on the air taxi side, or is it really worth it to lean heavier towards a air taxi network and commercial operations when your frames can be sold and your tech can be proven out on a just a more grandiose basis as it gets in the hands of the military? So I think defense, it's the early path to revenue, and for these companies to succeed, they're going to continue to need to prove out their tech to the FAA, which is going to be cash and burn and run rates. So we can test flight, but it's not until the FAA says, I've had enough of your test flights.
Yeah.
You're type certified. Now enter operations. So yeah, a lot going on in it. But yeah.
Then I know I'm backpedaling a little bit, but
Sure,
while
sure.
Saddle actually unlocked a thought in my head there, and it was about Lilium. So getting back to that Lufthansa, that Swiss international airlines, and the potential deal with Lufthansa, Lilium got a memorandum of understanding by Lufthansa. And therefore, it makes me think, look, Adam didn't just acquire Lilium's patents. It looks like he's now starting to go after Lilium's business. And I know we
client
can,
list.
like, do you know what? In the recent Joby versus Archer debate, I think it was Mac actually brought a really good point, or it could have been Chris, that yes, we can't keep going back to Lilium because at the end of the day, Lilium is a failed company. So we don't want to be Lilium. But it looks like Adam is still looking for the opportunities that are there.
Yeah.
And if you can enter that European market as well, because we know they're already in talks with the Ministry of Defence in the UK when it comes to licensing out the powertrain again to create drones for the Ministry of Defence. And therefore, if you can start getting the commercial business on a rollout in Europe, it would be interesting. However, I think FAA certification, if it comes to Europe, will be very important.
And to that, correct me if I'm wrong, Liam, but would it be Joby right now as the only one that has MOU on the books in the UK region with Virgin?
I don't
Just kind of in the sense of the bigger
vertical
players, I guess.
airspace. I am not sure the vertical
That's
aerospace
fair.
has some as
That's
well.
fair. That's fair.
But
That's fair.
Archer doesn't. No.
That is fair. Yeah, great point. That nailed it.
Jumping across to vertical aerospace, look, they're actually starting to really come on my radar now recently. As they've started increasing their range, as they've sort of like been pushing for that hybrid model as well, with that 1,000-mile range, I'm actually starting to look at that VX4 and think that looks very cargo orientated to me rather than commercial use.
Interesting.
Whereas their new Velo that they're bringing out, I can see going for commercial use. But I actually do think I could see vertical aerospace going down the same sort of avenue as well, where they go for military operations first, and then that'll be your pathway into commercial operations. And I think this is how they're all going to go. Horizon Aircraft is the exact same way. I genuinely think they're looking for the defensive route first. They can get a big defensive contract, then we can start thinking about commercial operations. And I think that's the way the whole market's going to go. And I think, especially with these macro conditions at the moment, the fact that we have like Ukraine going on, Israel still will be knocking about. We've had the news this week about Venezuela. I just think defense is a hot topic lately. It'd be silly not
Yeah, it's
to
true.
run after it.
You know, Liam, that's actually a great point because again, as you were speaking on that, I was kind of writing down a note to maybe follow up with you on it. Um, so I mean, but you tied it up so great. But I'll still ask it to you. So it's like, you know, so we think of like again, you know, these are high beta stocks. We got to have, you know, it's not the good earnings per se in the company. The EPSs aren't going to be what drive the companies forward. It's going to be catalysts, guidance, and catalysts. Basically, there's no, but basically these tremendous catalysts that are ahead of us. Also, January. Wonder if we get the release of the cities for the EIPP. So keep your eyes out for that. Might get those, which again, I'm shooting for LA, Miami, throw New York in there as it becomes summertime. So just to show I'm giving Joby some love too. Let's throw Ohio, maybe like Dayton in there as like kind of like again where we have that.
Whatever happened to Archer? Archer seemed to be quite big on New York initially with that United Airlines,
Mm-hmm.
and then we haven't heard much about it.
So, two things. One, I'll say this before it slips. The one thing I've liked, even though they've been MOUs only, and you know, definitely tell me if I'm wrong on any of the other ones, but at least in the recent, with, and I know we spoke about this, but with United hosting the event of having Archer and a wrapped midnight out there, it's just to me it's this forward leaning, and it's really excuse me, one of the first ways where the airliners can show them going in an eco-friendly mode. You know, we're just not at that point with traditional commercial jetliners where they're not going to be able to show that. So to try to get to any of these net zero emissions, you know, your first start is really eVTOL operations in some sort of sense, whether it's from gate to gate or however they do that about. um Oh, but you asked about New York, and you know, I was almost thinking, you know, the drive to New York, the drive in New York. You know, I'm thinking almost like maybe initial like technology, and that maybe New York was this hub. Oh, I had this thought too. If if you're gonna be one of these VIPs at the beginning that are riding in the midnight, or if that's Joby's plan as well, I don't want to misspeak. So whatever Joby's plan is on who they want to ride their aircraft. So who are going to be the ones in LA that are going to be needing your A to B point to point business travel? Probably the same people that live and work in New York, where they may not be using the eVTOL again all year long. Maybe you'll only have very seasonal operations at the beginning of that, but maybe again that's when we're spreading the word on UAM, so like people know what the heck this is once like these can come to market. You're already hearing about these at these tech conferences in New York, and you're hearing about what it could do to get you from, you know, point to JFK or to LaGuardia or any of the trajectory kind of airports that they want to go A to B in. But Adams even said where this is going to be small scale, showcasing point routes A to B, A to, you know, B to A to B, and then adding on an A, B, and it's, you know, and proving it out that way. Um, but the other, yeah, so the other thing, that was about New York, but just I was curious as you were kind of talking about the macro and, you know, just everything that's been going on in that, where you're right, it does seem like it does kind of play into like a lot of like, and I'm not speaking, this is not financial advice, but just saying like maybe let's saying it plays into like the drone plays and, you know, just kind of all that again, like market sway per what's going on. So, you know, those more in the know will know the ways that it's sway. But I was actually curious outside of what you just spoke about, and that being one of the kind of the macros that could bring down 26. Like what else do you think kind of macro in 26 that would be something that would really kind of, you know, and I have one in mind, and this is maybe I'll start with this just so I don't miss the thought. The only one I have in mind, and I don't know how true this could be or would be, but I, you know, with a lot of newer investors in the retail market and such like that, and I know that it's institutions that are really holding up the majority of your S&Ps, you know, especially as opposed to like your high beta stocks. But think about how many people in the high beta stocks have come into high gains within the past year or 2 years. And what comes with that is your capital gains and your taxes. Or if your margins, or I don't know as much about this, but I've heard a little bit. So just again, to anybody in chat, fill it in better if you can. But with the Bitcoin drop down, I feel like I've heard that there's been pieces of like margin getting called. So certain margin calls, is there's been like higher drop downs. So I'm just curious, as you have again that influx in people that have the gains, but have they protected those gains in a way that are going to have them be able to hold their positions now and then ride out those tax waves? Or are we going to see kind of different tax lot sell-offs maybe in untraditional times throughout the year that may build up to that? So that's just like something I was thinking about.
Money's been made so easy to get over the last few years, and all I'm starting to think is the more money people are accumulating, the more dumb money is in circulation, and it's only a matter of time before it's all pulled from beneath us. Another thing I think that could affect it, we don't know exactly what Elon was referring to with the Roadster announcement.
Thank you for saying it. Yeah.
So, I know people are going to jump on us straight away with the whole Tesla thing, but if this Roadster comes out and it is anything to do with eVTOL, it is going to go one of two ways. Everyone's going to either jump in on the industry, and what I think is going to happen is everyone's going to jump into Tesla.
Yeah,
and they're going to just beat down everything else because Tesla's tried and trusted in
that's fair.
many industries. And who wouldn't back Tesla? Put it that way.
That's fair.
Vaccine C says 2026 major catalysts, larger than normal returns due to big beautiful bill, NDAA and FCC requirements for American drone industry ATC system upgrades. You seem to be extremely bullish on the drone industry this year. I really need to start up my position in the likes of ONDS. Hello, Matan. How are we getting on today?
Lover.
There was a nice comment here. Okay, so a people confident Adam Goldstein leading Archer to the promised land. I kind of wish Brett Adcock was still involved in the company. Yeah, it's one of those. Brett Adcock would have been a fantastic addition there. However, I think people like to beat down. I'm not saying you are my guy at all, but people like to beat down Adam, and I don't think they realize how hard it is to make a multi-billion-dollar company. And I don't know, people are saying that it's not succeeding at the moment. I think it is on the cusp of success at the moment. I think everything is starting to line perfectly for them. Look, if Joby wasn't there, everyone would be beating their drums for Archer. So I don't know why all of a sudden everyone's just, it's like you can't invest in Joby without being anti-Archer. So I don't know. What's your thoughts, Brett Adcock? Would you like him at the helm?
I'm gonna I want to find I'm gonna answer this, but I'm gonna look for also the post that Brett has shared.
Did you see that?
Yeah, did you see that too? Yeah, let me, if you find it prior to me.
Something to do with Archer, wasn't it?
Well, it was, to be fair, it was for the eVTOLs. Now, even as I say that, it is very kind that Mr. Brad Adcock still does hold I probably won't even be able to probably won't even show it to the camera, but I love God love how he still keeps the midnight as his background to his or his cover photo for his X page. So always appreciate Brett keeping that out there. Something that some people in the chat may know more than me. Something I was thinking about doing earlier in the year before things get too crazy was maybe taking a look at like the outstanding shares that Brett might still have in the company. So just kind of general like rooting interest and stuff like that. I know he had that interview with Amit. What feels like March or something of last year, where he did say that both he saw that Archer and Joby were both going to be successors in the market. And so, I think people, like you said, have had different opinions and thoughts on what made Brett leave or kind of his mission going into the humanoid robots. But I think I think he's running a tremendous business, and I wonder one day also if I may have said this before, almost like the Palmer Luckey and Zuck thing, where you already have the figure robots working in the BMW factories, if I'm not wrong on that. So
Yeah.
they're already putting together, I believe, like 3 series BMWs or something like that. So it'll be interesting again as we get 2, 3, 4 more years of build out with that. Almost seeing those maybe then get loaded on to the Covington, Georgia facility. And another, again, just stat to remember about the Covington facility. And I'm kind of worrying less and less about Stellantis as like the quote unquote manufacturing partner, because I'm just trying to, again, pull back like, what does a manufacturing partner do, does, and what role do they play? And for Archer, what I saw Stellantis was a earlier investor in the company. They got their shares and everything like that, and they also had some skilled labor workers who were working on the floors of the manufacturing facilities. So I still see that there's working relationship there with like the knowledge of build. But Archer has the ARC facility. It's not like they're going to be building the Midnight aircraft out of a Jeep production facility, a Fiat production facility, a Chrysler production facility. So outside of general trenches and money that would still be coming from the support of Stellantis, I guess, like it, again, like if you have the factory and you have the right people and you're bringing in all the right infrastructure to build the aircraft, and again, still to be seen whether Palantir is just a ATC system partner or also a build and manufacture partner, meaning in the sense of like optimizing build outlines, not in the sense of like Palantir as a manufacturer, but continuing to optimize those build and manufacturing lines and those assembly lines. Yeah, a lot in there. Yeah.
Yellowbat says Horizon's market cap is about 0.54% of Joby. Is calculated at 71 million to 13.1 billion times 100. Look, Horizon does have a nice bit of run room. I think it's a little bit wild comparing it to Joby though at the moment, because I could do the exact same thing and say Joby's market cap compared to Tesla's. It's a wild one at the moment. I can see what you're kind of saying, but there's a lot of room to go. Joby has twice the market cap of Archer. That is true. Joby is also further ahead, though. Are we expecting another round dilution before certification potentially? But then Joby could go as well. At Hawthorne Airport, we are surrounded by most companies. I'm hoping it leads to. You said it, not me. I'm not putting a dartboard in my back. Then we have humanoid robot. It's all hype, but Musk to pump the stock. I don't know. I'm actually quite bullish on the Optimus. I think that's one of the key reasons I am invested in Tesla. I'm actually a lot more bullish on Optimus than I am full self-driving. Not that I'm not bullish on full self-driving, but I think Optimus has a bigger run room. This might be high, but ChatGPT forecasts 48 midnights to be built 2026. I think that's a bit high. When Dylan comes back, we'll ask him on that. Ilba, unless they can raise billions of dollars in capital markets, they'll repeat Lilium. Look, I think Horizon does have a lot better chance than the likes of Lilium. It does sound like Brandon is speaking to quite a few outside investors. He does have ties in with the Department of Defense. I don't think it'll be a complete repeat of Lilium, but there is a lot of headwind coming their way. Guys, do smash that like button while you're here. We have 16 likes at the moment. And also, if you're new here, look, we have a counter up on top. Smash that subscribe button. I know for certain we are going to be at 4,000 subscribers by next eVTOL Weekly.
Oh, I thought that was the counter of how many times my son comes and says hello during the stream. I was like, tick up, tick up, tick up, tick up. Another one. We got another. Hey, I was gonna say that it was funny when you were saying one of the comments just a few minutes ago on Adam, where it was like when you were bringing it up, it was like, oh, and we have a good comment on Adam. It almost like shooting. I was like, well, it's like, wait, what? It's like like I don't know in a year if we've ever let off. It's like, hey, and we got like a good comment, like somebody, but no, that was just like a, when you stick with us for that long, it's like, yeah.
Then, Dylan, who did we have here? We had Wild Saddles says ChatGPT forecast 48 midnights to be built in 26. I'm a bit dubious on that.
Yeah,
especially if we're not certified. Do you want 48 midnights sitting there?
Okay, you know what? And you bring the great question, the divisive question on, do we want to build them? Okay, so 48, that's going to be, I'm good at math, so that's 4 a month. So let's say we get 2 a month done for the first 6 months. That means it's going to be 6 a month then, if I'm doing my napkin math right, for the rest. No, I don't think so. I want to say that Nikhil even spoke about, was it, God, I spoke about a week or two ago. I want to say, was it 50 per year by 27 they were shooting for? So 48 by end of 26. I'll tell you, if we can get, let's see, how many off the production line would make me really, really feeling good? If we could get 5 in the hands of the UAE, if we could get 10 in the hands of Anduril, it's 15. Let's just say we save, let's go on the high number, 10 for like FAA/Archer testing. That's 25. So we're at 2 a month. If we can get to 30 aircraft this year, I think I'm seeing a positive trajectory into 27. I don't know if they'll do 48 though. I'd love it, but I don't know. I haven't done a price prediction yet on the year, but this is a wild shot in the dark of 31 midnight produced, but I feel like it's high. I feel like it's a high number. I don't know.
I don't even want to project.
Yeah,
because I feel like we're going to be low. I genuinely reckon.
Yeah,
we'd be lucky to get 20. Genuinely. Okay. No, I can't see much more than 20. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yellowbat says Horizon can theoretically sell 100 eVTOL variants to Defense Department this year and reach 1 billion revenue. So this is what really confuses me about Horizon investors. You're running before you can walk. Like, you have a half scale, and now you're saying you're ready to sell 100 to the Department of Defense and reach 1 billion in revenue. Who's going to produce these 100 for you? Is there space to do it? Where are you going to get the money to produce the 100? Like, are you going to get the money up front before you deliver? I don't know. Canada aerospace environment is great compared to Europe when Lilium went down. Ross Nolan says, any shuttle service to airport must include the maximum baggage allowance plus passenger mass, unlike commuter daily traffic. I think that's all factored in, my guy. Vaccine C, I like Adam. He may not be a founder in an engineering sense, but he is a dreamer sense. He wants us to live in the world we dreamed about reading sci-fi at a young age, and that's all right by me. Vaccine C, well said, my guy. Adam is the perfect CEO for this company where we are right now. Oh, perfect for where we are right now. I think he will be perfect once we get to the next stage. Once we're actually getting money in the door, I think he'll be perfect. The problem is now is people are questioning him because he's not an engineer I don't want him to be an engineer, but some people question him because they want an engineer because that's all we can speak about now because we're not actually speaking about business. Once it comes down to business, I do think Adam hands down will win this. I'll take 30. I'll settle for 30.
All
Do you
right.
know what? 30. If we get 30, I think we're all going to be over the moon. Not going to
Sure.
lie.
Sure.
Guys, smash that subscribe button. Also, on X, I can see how many of you, there's 47 of you on X. Smash that like and also repost it, please.
Nice.
Make sure you're following us because we're doing a 365-day eVTOL challenge. Every single day, we're going to be pumping out a Archer, Joby, Horizon, vertical aerospace, whatever you want. You can steer it. Also, I do have a confession to make. I have turned ads back on for the videos. We get 150 likes, I'll turn them back off. But there is method to my madness. I genuinely am thinking of using YouTube revenue, to do a separate project. Because I noticed one of the guys done it on X where every day for a whole year he bought one share of Rocket Lab. And I'm thinking, why don't I do one where I do one share of Joby, one share of Archer, one share of Horizon, one share of vertical aerospace? Even one share of Beat is pretty wild one at the moment, so I'm not even gonna add that in there.
And that's one that again we don't get to touch on enough. It'll be interesting, if in the chat, fire away if you're a shareholder, and again, you don't got to say how many or did you happen to buy one in IPO? What are you thinking on that? I agree that it just seems logical and mathematical that there's going to be a drawdown in the price. But I'm not gonna lie, for since November, going on almost 2 months now of the dip I think to the 23s was, I believe, about as low as it got. And it'll have its swings to the 28s and into the 29s and such. But yeah, so I'm not loading the boat to DCA my one IPO share down just yet. But I don't know. It's an interesting one. It's
I think for a different use case, I think Beta are on something. I really do think they're hitting a market that, like, Archer and Joby, I can't really see them. Even though they say their use case can be cargo, I just don't see them going down that route. Vertical aerospace, potentially. Horizon Aircraft, I think, have so much ambition at the moment that I don't think they'll go down the cargo route.
Some other thing would be really interesting to see in beta, and they may address these during shareholder letters and such. But for me, maybe I'll take more of the year-over-year look at it instead of being so worried what happened each quarter on it. But almost like overlaying the map of their charging networks and stations for the ones that were installed, to be installed, and all that kind of that were going up to 50 or so up the East Coast, and almost transposing a map 1 year from now, overseeing again the growth out in those charging stations. So it'll just be interesting to see if Beta does end up also kind of having that as an additional source to their business, where it's not just the aircraft, it's not just the cargo. But if somehow they end up being one of the maybe more leaders in energy or the charging network infrastructure as kind of the eVTOLs start playing out. So yeah, I'm gonna be curious for Beta in a year from now what their charging network map looks like.
Horizon Aircraft, in theory, can use military public aircraft authority to bypass civil. This is the thing, Horizon investors, and this is not being patronizing at all, but
No.
anything we thought of before with Archer and Joby ages ago. We know you don't need to be certified to then go into defense. But
you gotta have the
at the
defense
moment,
partner.
you just don't have the ability to produce all these. Like, you haven't made a full-scale Cavra X7. So why all of a sudden are we producing 100 of them for the military? The military can't see one fully operational yet. So why wouldn't they go to Archer or Joby and just go same thing? Like, I think we're getting too bogged down on this closed, fixed wing. Lilium had a very similar aircraft. Archer has the patents for them. Archer tomorrow could throw 74 million at a new project and it wouldn't be 5% of their cash.
Yeah.
And straight away they have a aircraft valued at the same as the whole Horizon business. So I like the thought. I can see 100% the rationale behind it. But if it was that easy, Archer and Joby would be doing it already. I just think that's a wild one. Like, you're just going to produce 100 of them and straight to the military with it.
And for Hover, I say again, like, as I was getting into Archer's Joby, because again, Archer and Joby still, they got on the NYSE at the same time. So like for certain metrics, you have those tracked like kind of neck to neck. But on the build, obviously Joby started before that. So again, just kind of like Liam was saying, like as kind of we've gone through this eVTOL progression and how hard. I mean, Liam, we've been at this for 18 months, and that's how long it takes to type certify an aircraft. So, you know, last 18 months and we still don't have a type certified aircraft. But what I say to the Hover is, you know, keep looking at what successful catalysts are happening with inside of these market and industry leaders, and just see the roadmap that is kind of being placed in front of you, and don't, because again, even for me with like the Anduril and Archer, you know, a year ago, it's like it seemed like the partnership was there and revenue was ready to come through the door. You know, it's like they got an Anduril, but it's like, well, shoot, they still got to build the aircraft. They still got to make sure it tests through what Anduril wants, and you know, we're still getting to that part where it's the electric propulsion system right now that's being used by Anduril in an actual system that is being deployed. So it's so yeah, it's not to say that
I want to
yeah,
address something there.
knock it.
So they have fighter pilots that used to go in the military, and the CEO was in charge of buying the F-35 for Canada. So I want to bring up Archer Defense Advisory Board. Yeah. Their CEO, Adam Goldstein, is constantly in the White House. But they don't just get contracts left, right, and center. Let me just bring this up here. Ooh, that's definitely not what
That's
I wanted.
okay. But yeah, it was an interesting move, which has now been over a year where you've had this board together.
Yeah. So we have Director Jeff Dahmer, Major General. But look, I can go through all of them, and if you search, I forget where it is, but you can actually find out what all these guys do. They have a whole specific part of their business that is dedicated to defense. The backing they have Anduril on their side. Anduril whole business is built around the defense industry. Horizon aren't just going to go in and just pick up a contract for 100 aircraft just like that. If they do, fair play to them. I'll eat my words. But
and I agree with exactly what you're saying, Liam. And again, Archer Defense isn't just like a name on a wall. It's a literal business unit, subsidiary of the company. It's a business unit of Archer. But you know, if I'll give a nod to Brandon, what I'll say, and just what I've learned about Adam is Adam came from finance background, and what has he been great at? Finding strategic ways to fund his business and to ensure that he is sustaining a product even before he had a product, sustaining it to a sense where he could get the investor confidence to build the engineering team and then get the capital to build the maker design and then to move on to building the full scale Midnight. So what I'm saying is Adam had that prowess to be able to do it on the VC side and get the company up and running. So I'll give a nod to Brandon that he may have the military experience and the military handshakes and be able to do that, but it's still going to be a well-rounded business, a well-rounded C-suite that is going to continue to elevate Hover to be one of those main players, and again, not be one that has to go insolvent or have to, as much as, you know, we don't think Joe Ben would sell his IP and property, probably not. We don't think that Brandon would sell his IP and property. If Adam maybe was offered the right check, maybe he would, you know, so maybe that he differs in that as well. But you know, just look for Hover to keep building out a well-rounded C-suite, to take more off Brandon's back so he can define what his position in the company is. Is he the one that's going to go out and market this to your defense players, to your commercial players that he's looking to, your, again, your medevac units, you know, all those type of businesses, meetings that he'll be having to take hold as he continues to build out his R&D, his design team, his, you know, and get the manufacturing partnerships that, again, are either going to be to help manufacture the aircraft or to bring in those high levels of capital like Toyota, like Stellantis has been able to do for Archer and Joby. And that's probably one of the reasons why we're still able to talk about Archer and Joby 3 years later, because they don't have a certified aircraft, but they have enough cash to keep trying.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Then Z-Stacker having needs to pull out the full scale. 100% once Horizon put that out, I genuinely do think it will be easier to get capital, but I don't think the floodgates are going to open just like some people are expecting. Horizon needs capital, that's capital. No, thank you. Look, I think it's a good... This is not financial advice. If I was starting again, I think it's a good one to put a punt on. I think it's a good one that if it does succeed, you are going to make quite a bit of money, but I wouldn't be backing my whole portfolio and my whole, I don't know, everything that I've ever worked for on them. I'm 99% certain they are building a spec for a defense partner already. 90% sure it's Bombardier Defense. I am 99% sure that you couldn't know it was Bombardier Defense because we've spoken to Brandon and it's not Bombardier Defense. Now, they could go further and be operating with Bombardier, not at the moment. Ross Nolan. Airbus laid off its staff after its eVTOL City Airbus. Okay, my guy. I think Hoffa will dilute 20 or 30% next year, but they just raised 23 million. Yellowbat, can you send me the link to that? Because I was trying to find it everywhere where they've raised that 23 million. If that is true, that they've just raised 23 million, I do genuinely think it's going to be extremely green tomorrow. But do jump in and let me know. I've missed a comment there. Tony says, we need to start a business that puts vertiports and landing zones every mile in a city. That'd be extremely hard, you know, and it'll cost an extreme amount of money. Every mile, that's the only thing. I think we're comparing them to buses, but at the same time, I don't think it'll be as frequent as buses, as in, I don't think it's going to be every mile, because at that stage, you may as well jump on a bus. I don't think you're killing much time by flying 1 mile. Yes, if it's over like highly dense areas and extreme traffic, but every mile across the city would be pretty wild. Through hotspots, yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think it was at the end of your recap video where they stated, but I'd have to go back and check. Right, mate, I will definitely check that for you. Guys, 83 of you here, bang that subscribe button. Also, hit that like button whether you're on X or on YouTube, doing a 365-day challenge. On day 4 at the moment, feeling good, feeling like I can do it. It'll get to about day 40 and I will be flattened. But look, I am determined I will get 365 days out. But expecting 4,000 subscribers by this time next week. Push for that 5,000 end of year, aiming for 10. Can it be done? I don't know. We will try everything. But look, it's been great. I'll see you tomorrow. My name's Liam, one of the host brothers. Been great talking to them. And until then, we'll